The observation deck of the stellar harmony hummed with the gentle vibration of its quantum drives as 5 species gathered for their weekly cultural exchange. Captain Zixthar, a Quellan with iridescent scales that shifted between violet and gold, raised his crystalline appendage to call the meeting to order. "My friends," he began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. "Tonight we share stories of legend, tales that define our peoples." Around the curved table sat representatives of the Galactic Coalition's most prominent species. Lyra, a willowy Etherian whose translucent form occasionally flickered with bioluminescence, nodded eagerly. Beside her, Kronak, a hulking Grendar built like a mountain of muscle and stone-like hide, grunted his approval. The insectoid Vexley chittered excitedly, compound eyes glinting, while Mora adjusted her environmental suit with her tentacles. And then there was Marcus Chen. He sat quietly at the edge of the group, his plain gray jumpsuit unmarked except for a small patch reading Cargo Specialist, Section 7. His brown eyes watched the proceedings with calm interest, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The others barely registered his presence, as they often did. Humans were new to the Coalition, rare enough that most had never met one, and Marcus had been careful to maintain a low profile during his 3 months aboard. "I shall begin," Zixthar announced. "We Quellans tell of the great devourer of Proxima, a leviathan that could swallow starships whole. Only through collective telepathic might did our ancestors drive it into the dark between stars." Impressed murmurs rippled through the group. Lyra went next, sharing an Etherian tale of beings who transcended physical form. Kronak spoke of the siege of Grendar Prime, where his people held a fortress for 10 cycles against impossible odds. Then Vexley's turn came. "But have you heard?" the insectoid said, mandibles clicking with barely contained excitement. "Of the Deathworlders?" The atmosphere shifted. Even Marcus, for the first time, seemed to pay closer attention. "Deathworlders?" Mora's translation device carried a note of intrigue. "Yes, the humans." Vexley practically vibrated. "I have studied the restricted databases. Their planet, Earth, it is classified as a Class 12 death world. 12, the highest survivable classification." Zixthar's scales rippled with nervous yellow. "I have heard whispers. Their world is said to be a nightmare of competing predators. More than that," Vexley continued, "their atmosphere contains oxygen at concentrations that would be toxic to most species. Their gravity is nearly double what we consider standard. The planet experiences frequent geological upheavals, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive storms that span continents." Marcus took a sip of his water, saying nothing. "I read," Lyra added softly, "that 96% of all species that ever lived on Earth went extinct. Natural selection on a scale almost unimaginable. And the humans are pursuit predators," Kronak rumbled, leaning forward despite himself. "I looked into their biology after hearing rumors. Their eyes face forward predator eyes. They have persistence hunting techniques. They would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion." "Days?" Mora's tentacles coiled anxiously. "What manner of metabolism allows such endurance?" "They are endurance specialists," Vexley said. "Efficient at processing oxygen, excellent at regulating temperature through liquid secretion, sweat they call it. While most species must rest frequently, humans can maintain activity for extended periods, and their bones, incredibly dense, evolved to withstand their crushing gravity and constant physical trauma." Marcus set down his water carefully, his expression neutral. "There's more," Zixthar added, his voice dropping. "I accessed some declassified military reports. When humans enter combat, their bodies flood with chemicals, adrenaline, that temporarily increase their strength and pain tolerance. They can continue fighting even with injuries that would incapacitate most species. I heard," Lyra said quietly, "that they domesticated the apex predator of their world, took wolves, pack hunters, and turned them into companions. What species befriends something designed to kill? One that is more dangerous," Kronak answered grimly. Vexley's chittering took on an odd quality. "And their history. Constant warfare, species competing against itself. They split the atom and immediately weaponized it. Created diseases, poisons, tools specifically designed to kill other humans. They are survivors because their world demanded nothing less." "Why do you think they're kept so isolated in the Coalition?" Mora asked. Limited contact, restricted travel authorizations. The Council fears them, Zixthar said bluntly. They're trying to determine if humans can be safely integrated. A species from a death world, evolved to survive impossible conditions. What happens when you give them advanced technology? What happens when they no longer fight each other and turn their focus outward? The group fell silent, contemplating the implications. I am grateful, Lyra said finally, that I have never met one. To look into the eyes of an apex predator from a death world, to know what they're capable of. It must be terrifying. Agreed, several voices murmured. Marcus cleared his throat softly. Five heads swiveled toward him as if suddenly remembering he existed. That's quite a reputation we've got, he said mildly. The silence that followed was absolute. Zixthar's scales went pale white. You're human, yeah? Marcus smiled, a genuine friendly expression that somehow made it worse. His teeth, they suddenly noticed, were omnivore teeth. Predator teeth. Marcus Chen been sitting here the whole time. Vexley made a sound like escaping steam. Mora's tentacles went rigid. I apologize, Kronak started, his usual confidence evaporating. We meant no offense, none taken, Marcus assured him, standing and stretching. The casual display of his physiology, the efficient way he moved, the controlled power and simple gestures, suddenly seemed noteworthy. It's all pretty much accurate, actually, though you missed the part about humans being persistently curious and generally friendly. He picked up his datapad. Earth is harsh, made us adaptable, but it also made us appreciate cooperation, diversity, finding common ground. Why do you think I've been sitting here quietly for 3 months, just listening and learning about all of you? Lyra's bioluminescence flickered with embarrassment. To understand us? Exactly. Marcus headed toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, every species here has impressive traits. Vexley, your pattern recognition is incredible. Mora, your multi-dimensional thinking. Lyra, your empathy. Kronak, your integrity. Captain, your leadership. He smiled again, and this time they saw it for what it was, not a threat display, but genuine warmth. We're all just trying to survive in this universe. Humans just had to try a little harder. Marcus waved casually. See you all next week. I'll bring coffee. You should try it. Fair warning, though, most species find it a bit intense. The door slid shut behind him. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Zixthar's scales rippled with sheepish blue. Did we just spend an hour describing how terrifying humans are? To a human? Yes, Vexley confirmed quietly, and he just took it well? More than well, Lyra observed, her form glowing with something like admiration. He turned it into a lesson about cooperation. Kronak huffed, the Grendar equivalent of a laugh. Perhaps that's the real reason to fear humans. Not because they're Deathworlders, but because they've survived a death world and still chose to be kind. The others considered this, a new understanding settling over the group. Next week, Mora said thoughtfully, perhaps we should ask him to share human stories. They all agreed. And perhaps, just perhaps, they began to understand that the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their world or their biology. It was their choice to extend friendship despite every evolutionary reason not to. That, more than anything, made them remarkable,